Yo, what's up there, guys? I would like to say Happy New Year. If it's not New Year just yet, it's New Year's Eve. But it'll be New Year soon, and New Year's means that the 2016 season officially is underway. So I wanted to do a few analysis of major Pokemon in this metagame, such as Groudon, Kyogre, Xerneas, and Rayquaza. Xerneas being one of the most prevalent in the metagame, especially paired up with Groudon, considering the fact that it gets Geomancy. Yveltal not so much because it doesn't get a move such as Geomancy, where it increases 3 of your stats in basically one turn if you use the Power Herb, as well as the major weather setters, be it Rayquaza, Primal Groudon, and Primal Kyogre. Now, I've been using Kyogre probably ever since they announced the official rules and they changed it over on Showdown, and he is the one that I am most familiar with, and he's probably my favorite of the entire bunch. So I want to put my perspective out there. I know this has probably been hit over the head way too many times with analysis of Kyogre, but this is going to be a very thorough analysis from my personal perspective from using Kyogre, and the many perspectives from the many PokeTubers on YouTube can definitely have a benefit to you because everyone does have a different perspective how they go about team building as such. Anyway, we're going to get right into this. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you do, please leave a like and subscribe if you are new to this channel, and we're going to get right into this. Now, we're going to be doing Kyogre, and I say Kyogre analysis and not Primal Kyogre analysis is because we're going to be actually grazing a bit of just regular Kyogre in this walkthrough and this analysis. And by the way, my name is actually James Mack. Now you can call me Jim Mack or Shut Up and Rock here on YouTube, and I am the author and the creator of this analysis. It's going to be a bit longer than the other ones that you possibly have seen on YouTube. I'll try to go as fast as I possibly can and cover as much as I possibly can so that you can comprehend it all at once in this video. And if you have any questions, please leave them down in the comment section below. We're going to get right into this. Anyway, what are my goals? What are my goals for this entire presentation and this video for you to come away with? And one of the many things that I want you to come away with is how to use Kyogre, how to build Kyogres, and how to build teams for Primal Kyogres, and you know, what to EV for, what you need to survive, what you need to EV for in order to KO, especially if you're, say, outside of the rain or inside of the rain. You know, Water Spout over Origin Pulse, those many different things. How to assess threats, how to assess many different leads when they do see a Primal Kyogre on your team, what you need to bring on your team, you know, in order to keep those other threats in check, as well as how to deal with those threats. Many sample sets. We have many sets from like a Scarf Kyogre as well as a Timid Kyogre, you know, a very slow bulky Kyogre that can work well in the Trick Room, as well as an After You supporter, as well as just general team composition. Who do you want to have on your team in order to support Kyogre, such as those steel types? Maybe you want to have an Aegislash with Wide Guard. Maybe you want to have a Ferrothorn for those other Kyogres, so that you can get very powerful power whips off. And it also benefits from not being able to get attacked by a fighter type move inside of the Primordial Sea. And then benefiting partners. Who do you want to partner with Kyogre? And there are there's a very long list, and I'm going to touch on the major partners in this video right here. So Kyogre's type effectiveness, it is a water type, so I mean it doesn't have those really good types like a Steel Dragon. It doesn't cover itself very well because it's still damaged normally by a lot of other types in the game. It's weak to only Grass and Electric, which is really good because Grass, be it Ferrothorn, Electric, be it, say, I guess like the Zekrom and the Thundurus, and Thundurus is actually a very disruptive Pokemon. You're probably going to worry more about like Swagger and role plays from the Thundurus as opposed to like Thunderbolts, because those are moves that you can generally survive and EV for. So, you know, Thundurus is not that big of a threat, but Zekrom definitely is, because it can basically just one-shot you. Even though it's not too popular, it may be popular early on, later on, and is resistant to Steel, Fire, Water types, and Electric types, which is really good. I mean, you're not going to be really getting hit with Fire type attacks unless you're outside of the rain. So it's not something you want to worry about. And Primal Kyogre really doesn't change its type, unlike Groudon. When Groudon does go through Primal Reversion, it gains the Fire typing, which is pretty cool. Kyogre doesn't have that ability to do that, so it's just, you know, straight up water type. His base stats are really good. Not many of them do change when he does change into Primal Kyogre. As you see, the HP, defense, and the speed pretty much stay the same, and then you have the attack, special attack, and special defense change. Now, you know, I'm partial to those stat changes when it does go through Primordial Reversion, because you're not going to be using a physical Kyogre, at least, you know, you're not going to be using it early on, because because Kyogre and Groudon are pretty much like the same. They're mirrors. You know, Groudon has very good defenses and not so much special defense. It has very good attack, and then basically the attack and the special attack are flipped for the both of them. But then you can run mixed Groudons, not so much with Kyogre. It doesn't have a move pool like Groudon does. And you're not going to really be running physical sets, so pretty much what you're going to be running it for is you're going to be using it as a special sweeper. And, you know, the most notable stats for Kyogre, obviously, it's HP, its special attack, and its special defense. Now, I didn't even touch attack because you're not really going to be running you know, physical Kyogres. And there is actually downside to having that attack increase, because those foul plays from like the Liapards and like Thunderuses maybe, and the Yveltals, they're going to be doing a lot of damage to Kyogre, especially if Dark Aura is up. So I'm not a big fan of its attack increase. But notable stats that you need to take, you know, you need to consider are the HP, special attack, and the special defense. Now, the speed, not so much, because there are a lot of base 90 legendaries that are in this metagame now, especially Groudon. And then you have, I believe, Zekrom and Reshiram, and then Dialga as well. So those are definitely something you have to consider, especially when you're you want to basically outspeed. Maybe you want to have... That's why Tailwind and Trick Room is very popular in this meta right here. But then you have special defense. It's going to be really hard to take down. Even if you can even EV your Kyogre to survive a +2 Moonblast from a Xerneas. I mean, it's very, very specially bulky, but not so much when it comes to the physical bulk. And then yet again, we have the same basically stat increases and the stats that we're gonna basically, you know, looking at when you go through primal reversion. I just keep mispronouncing that. So pretty much what you're going to be using Kyogre for, is you're going to be using it as a special sweeper. I mean, you're not really going to be using it as a mixed set. There's not many moves that you can actually use on the physical side of it, maybe like Waterfall, but then yet again, you could just use Water Spout, Worship Pulse, and then hit both of them. And then you can use Kyogre, Groudon as, you know, mix it, but usually you're going to have Kyogre as a special sweeper right here, be it your normal Kyogre or your Primal Kyogre. Primal Kyogre are probably going to be, you know, a lot more popular than it will be for just a Scarf Kyogre, because it's very predictable, but we'll get into that in just a second. So Kyogre's key moves. I'm going to be covering every single key move that Kyogre gets on the special side of Kyogre, and Water Spout is definitely the most important one. It's definitely the move that you need to understand in order to move, and a lot of times when it does come down to tournaments and matches, you're going to want to know actually how to calculate it out, so that when you do get into those matches and you do get into the situations that, you know, okay, you only have Water Spout, say, over Origin Pulse, and you need to, you know, calculate, you know, how much damage it's going to do to the opposing Pokemon, so that maybe, you know, you use Water Spout over Origin Pulse, or if you just have Water Spout, maybe use another move, things of that nature. So Water Spout does damage proportionally based on the user's HP. This move reduces as the user's HP reduces, and it is calculated by this formula. Basically, power equals 150 times the current HP divided by max HP. And what that means is basically the base power at max HP is 150, which is incredibly high. But when your HP reduces, you have to do this calculation. It doesn't even matter whether or not you reduce your HP by like 10 HP or something like that. Maybe you got like Leech Seeded. You still need to run those calculations, because the more damage that you take, even if it's like 10 HP, the power of Water Spout is actually reduced. And there's actually, you know, when it gets to a point where you get so damaged, Origin Pulse is definitely the answer, and Water Spout basically comes rendered useless. And maybe later in the metagame, Water Spout won't even be used, because say, like, you know, you switch in. If you switch in, take damage, you need to, like, you know, get the rain up so that Primal Groudon doesn't get off an eruption, and you're going to take damage when you do come in. Basically, Water Spout is rendered useless. Anyway, hence the maximum power being 100 HP, the move's base power is 150, that as I just touched on. So furthermore, if your Pokemon is damaged, the power of Water Spout is decreased. So I have basically in a little example right here. Say, you know, your max HP is like 202, you know, you took almost like half damage, and now your HP is at 98, so you're going to take the power equals 150 times 98 HP over 202. It's going to come out to 0.48 and some decimal points, times that by 150, and it's going to come out to be 72 base power. So pretty much at that point, Scold is the better option. Scold's even more powerful because Scold has a base power of 80 and has the 30% chance to burn the opponent, but then yet again, it's only a single down target, so maybe you actually do want to use Witter Spout at that point. It's all situational, but this is the calculations you're going to need to run in order to know how to calculate out Witter Spout, and it's very important to know. And Eruption is the same exact thing. Other key moves that Kyogre does get is Origin Pulse, and it has the power, base power of 110, which is really, really, really good, because if you take, you know, a considerable amount of damage, and even if you're at like 12 HP, Origin Pulse will always do the same amount of damage. It's just that Witter Spout is calculated upon your current HP. So we have Origin Pulse. It has the base power of 110 and has the accuracy of 85, which is not very desirable, but you can actually increase the accuracy if you do run Gravity on your team, such as Gravity Cresselia, and it hits both of the opponents. And this is also the same thing for Pressless Blades for Groudon. We're going to touch on that in another video, but the accuracy is something you definitely have to consider, and it also does hit both opponents, so it can get affected by Wide Guard Aegislashes. Definitely something you have to consider, and you have to consider who gets Wide Guard and how to assess those threats. So maybe something you do want to consider is Scold on your Pokemon. Maybe you want to put Scold on it so that, you know, you're not affected by the opponent's Wide Guard. Maybe you're going to run Witter Spout Scold over Witter Spout Origin Pulse. Definitely something to consider early on. So Scold has a base power of 80, accuracy of 100, so you're not going to have to worry about it missing, and it has a 30% chance to burn, which is absolutely insane, especially when you're attacking those physical attackers. Just keep in mind that you can't burn Primal Groudon, even if you do hit it, but even if you hit it in the rain, it's still going down anyway. It's 4 times super effective, and it is not affected by Wide Guard. Definitely something you have to consider, like I just previously said. And he also does get Muddy Water, something to definitely consider. Not the best option, obviously, considering the fact that he does get Origin Pulse, but it does have a base power of 90, accuracy of 85, just like Origin Pulse, but it also has a 30% chance to reduce accuracy, and that's why I included it in this video, because, say, you hit the opponents, and then you reduce their accuracy. Another, thing you have to consider there's Dark Void Smeargles, and if you reduce the accuracy, it actually does help you in the long run. It's just the fact that you need to get it off before Smeargle actually gets his Dark Void off, and that's something you're definitely going to have to build for and consider in this metagame, is Dark Voiding Smeargles, and it hits both of the opponents as well, so it is affected by Wide Guard. Another move that you're probably always going to run on Kyogre is Ice Beam. Ice Beam has a base power of 90 and accuracy of 100 and has a 10% chance to freeze your opponents. It does a considerable amount of damage to Kyogres. Maybe you predict like a Kyogre switch in, you don't go for a water type move and you go for an Ice Beam, you reduce Groudon's HP, so it can't get off very powerful eruptions. Definitely something to consider, and definitely a move that you're going to want to have on Kyogre is being Ice Beam. Other moves that you also want to consider is Thunder. Thunder has a base power of 110, just like Origin Pulse, but it has an accuracy of 70. But it is 100% accurate in the heavy rain. So when you're running Thunder, you want to consider Groudon switch-ins, Delta Stream. You want to also consider Cloud9 users, because once the weather changes outside of the rain, it becomes 70% accurate. So it's definitely something you're gonna want to consider. I consider Thunder a good move on Kyogre, a good filler move, so that you can hit other Kyogres for really good, super effective damage, especially if you're of the timid nature. And it also has a 30% chance of paralyzing your opponent. Icy Wind is also a notable move, base power of 55 as well as an accuracy of 95. It reduces both of the Pokemon's speed by 1 stage, which is also something good to consider, especially for another form of speed control. But I really wouldn't recommend it, considering the fact that Kyogre is going to be one of your big heavy hitters, so you don't really want to have a support set on it, because you want to get as much damage as you can off from the opposing Pokemon, and then have the Pokemon next to you being the supporter. Calm Mind is also another good move to consider as a non-damaging move. It increases the user's special attack and special defense by 1 stage. Now, say if you have like a supporting Pokemon with like Fake Outs or like Mat Block, something of that nature, something to support Kyogre. and then you do get a Calm Mind up, it's going to hit very, very, very hard. So definitely something to consider, especially for later on. It also gets Psych Up, which is a non-damaging move. Unlike Calm Mind, it doesn't increase your stats unless you copy the stats that has increased on a opposing Pokemon. Say, you know, a Xerneas goes for a Geomancy, and obviously Xerneas are going to go faster than Kyogres because they're generally faster to begin with. So Xerneas goes for the Geomancy, Kyogre goes for the Psych Up. Now you have that +2, +2, +2 in special attack, special defense, and speed on your Kyogre. Definitely something you want to consider to have on your Kyogre right there, be it Psych Up and Calm Mind. Alright, so some common moves, natures, and items. This is taken from the Pokemon Generation. What is it called? The Pokemon Generation. I don't know. It was a tournament that they had in February of 2005. Basically, the same exact rules, just that there were some abilities that were allowed in that aren't allowed in the current VGC metagame rules. Anyway, the common moves are obviously Ice Beam, Origin Pulse, Thunder, Protect, Water Spout, Calm Mind, Sheer Cold, Scold. Probably going to differ and vary as we actually kick off the 2016 season, considering the fact that this is almost a year ago. But definitely Ice Beam, Origin Pulse, Thunder, Protect, and Water Spout are generally the moves you're going to see on Kyogre. As well as some common natures, be it Modest, Timid, and Quiet. It's always going to have a special attack benefiting nature, at least early on, and then maybe later on you're going to be seeing a lot of like calm natures and bold natures that build for those types of bulk. But generally you're going to be seeing plenty of natures that take advantage of its high special attack stat. As well as some common items you see on Kyogre. Not a big surprise that the Blue Orb, basically almost 90% in usage, as well as the Choice Scarf being at almost 11% of usage. It's kind of a surprise that, you know, you do see this Choice Scarf as an option being almost 11%, because if you look at like Groudon's, almost 99% use the Life Orb. But Choice Scarf actually isn't that bad of an option, and I'm going to go through the advantages and disadvantages of using a Choice Scarf on a Kyogre in just a moment. Alright, so here are some common sample stats that typically are used by Kyogre users. You have a Timid Kyogre, a Choice Scarf Kyogre, you have a Calm Mind Kyogre. There's also another Kyogre, which is my favorite Kyogre that I'm going to cover in detail a little bit later on, but you have Timid Kyogre. Generally, they opt for Origin Pulse, Water Spout, Ice Beam, Protect. Maybe you'll have like Thunder in substitute for Water Spout, and then you have the Choice Scarf variant. Obviously, you don't want to have Protect on it because you can't opt for the Protect, considering the fact that you're going to be locked into one move, and usually you're going to be running Water Spout, Origin Pulse, Thunder, or Scold, and Ice Beam. And the Calm Mind set, obviously you're going to have Calm Mind, Origin Pulse, Ice Beam, or Thunder for coverage, as well as Protect. Now we're going to get into the next one. This is your Timid Kyogre right here. So the advantages of running a Timid Kyogre, it basically outspeeds other base 90s that don't have a speed benefiting nature. And what that means is, okay, so you're running a Timid Kyogre. Say if like you're up against like a Modest or like an Adamant Groudon, you're going to outspeed it. If you're up against an Adamant Zekrom, you're going to outspeed that. You're up against a Modest Reshiram, you're going to outspeed that. That's what I mean. Now, if they're timid or if they're jolly, you have the potential to speed tie, which also plays into the disadvantages of running a Timid Kyogre. It is actually my least favorite set, and I don't think it's the best one, at least early on. You know, it all depends on the playstyle of your of the person that uses it, but there are many disadvantages, at least more disadvantages than advantages in my opinion, because you have the potential to speed tie with other base 90s, and there's a lot of them in this metagame now, with speed benefiting natures. Still, you're still slower than Jolly Kangaskhan, which is very, very popular now to outspeed those base 90s, and you have no bulk invested, which leaves you open for a lot of quick KOs. And you know, you almost have the potential to get one-shot by a Jolly Kangaskhan still with Double Edge. So definitely something you're going to want to consider, and obviously the stats down below are the stats that you're going to be running. You're going to be running 4 HP, 252, 252 in special attack, and speed being the timid nature. And your stats are pretty damn good. Your special attack is up there, your speed is up there. Consider running some speed control with Tailwind so you can get off nice Water Spouts, maybe like protect the first turn. So we're going to be looking at how much damage you can dish out with your Timid Kyogre, as well as things that you can take in return. So 252 special attack Primal Kyogre with Water Spout can actually take out a Kangaskhan that has no investment in bulk, be it your Jolly Kangaskhan. So in return, Kangaskhan has the potential to take out Kyogre, as you see down below, but then yet again, you have the potential to take it out. That's where speed control comes into play. You want to be able to outspeed that Kangaskhan that can take you out. And that basically means everything in the entire metagame. You want to basically have the upper hand the entire battle, and speed control is definitely something you want to consider. 252 special attack Kyogre with Water Spout also has a 50% chance to take out a Xerneas. And Xerneas is, at least for right now, opt to be modest or timid, and before they get up to Geomancy, you have the potential to actually take it out. After it gets the Geomancy up, though, it is actually a two-shot at that point. So we have our Kyogre using Thunder against another Kyogre, and it's a guaranteed 2-hit KO. Generally, it's never going to be a 1-hit KO unless you basically decrease the opponent's Primal Kyogre's special defense, or if you get up a Calm Mind as such. So we already looked at the chance that Kangaskhan has to one-shot the Kyogre, and Groudon's Precipice Blades are always going to be a 2-hit KO regardless whether or not you have a bulk investment. Also, guaranteed 1-hit KO from a +2 Grass Knot from Xerneas, so it's definitely something you have to watch out for. And generally, Ferrothorns aren't going to run max attack. They do want to, invest in bulk. So 204 benefiting nature and attack from a Ferrothorn. Power Whip is a guaranteed 1-hit KO. And there are ways that you can actually survive that if you do invest in bulk, but that's something that you're not going to be able to survive if you are running a Timid Kyogre. So, some other popular sets are, well, not as popular as others, but this is something that you're definitely probably going to see in experimental phases of Kyogres running around. Choice Scarf Kyogre. Now, there are many disadvantages and advantages, so we're going to touch on that right here. And the advantages are, it outspeeds the entire metagame, barring Tailwinds, Trick Rooms, and other faster Scarf users. And it can get off very fast Water Spouts and Origin Pulses, potentially picking up a lot of one-hit KOs on both of your Pokemon's opponents, barring, say, Speed Control, Wide Guard, and a Groudon Switch-In. And one disadvantage of those Groudon Switch-Ins or the Groudon Leads is that you're going to be faster than that Groudon, and regardless whether or not you are Primal Kyogre, they're definitely going to get up the Desolate Lands before you're going to get up the Rain, because you're not Primal Kyogre at this point. And there are a lot of disadvantages of running a Choice Scarf Kyogre. It's easy to predict. Obviously, if you switch into your Kyogre, and if it doesn't go through Primal Reversion, everyone's going to know that you're Scarfed. I mean, everyone should know at that point that you're Scarfed. Scarf Kyogres are basically the only Kyogres that are ran outside of Primal Kyogres. It's easy to predict. It's easy to be outsped by Pokemon under Tailwind. So basically, if your opponent gets up like a Tailwind with a Crobat, it's going to be really hard to use that Kyogre now, especially if they have a Groudon on the opposing team. Generally, it is a slow Scarf user. There's a lot of other Scarf users that can outspeed this Kyogre, especially Scarf Landorus's, and they outspeed by a few points, actually. Trick Room is definitely something that you're going to have to watch out for as well, because you have a Scarf Pokemon, so you don't want to be in the Trick Room. You want to be able to take advantage of that speed. Requires partnering of a Cloud9 or an Airlock Pokemon, be it Rayquaza, Licky Licky, Golduck, because you want to basically you want to be able to get off your Water type attacks. So, if the Groudon's on the field, you want to switch into either your Rayquaza or your Golduck so that you can get off a Water Spout or an Origin Pulse into that Groudon. So, basically, almost always requires you to bring one of those Pokemon on your team. It's useless against Primal Groudon, and I say that with confidence because if you don't have the support of a Cloud9 user or Airlock user and Desolate Land is on the field and you're locked into a certain move, doesn't matter what it is at that point, because if you're running Ice Beam, Thunder, Origin Pulse, and Water Spout and Desolate Land's on the field, you're going to have to lock yourself into Ice Beam, and without that huge special attack increase that you have, especially when you're running Primal Kyogre, Kyogre, you're not going to be able to take out the Groudon. The Groudon will take you out first, so definitely something you're going to have to consider. So you're going to have to try to conserve Kyogre if you're going to be using it against a Groudon. And the weather cannot be cancelled. You cannot cancel out the weather of Desolate Land and Delta Stream because you only have Drizzle. You do not have Primordial Sea on your Scarfed Kyogre. Alright, so the stats that you're going to be running on this, obviously you can run 4 in defense, 4 in HP, whatever it may be, and 252 in speed and its special attack, and you're going to want to run a modest nature because you are Scarf, so you're pretty much going to outspeed everything, even if you aren't a speed benefiting nature, so you want that extra increase in special attack. Alright, so we're going to be looking at some disadvantages and advantages of a Calm Mind Kyogre, and I didn't go over the, dishing out the damages and damage it in return for Scarf Kyogre because it's pretty much the same for the regular Kyogre when it comes to the Water Spouts in the rain. Alright, so we're going to get into Calm Mind Kyogre. The advantages of running a Calm Mind Kyogre is that with one Calm Mind, it incredibly increases your special attack and special defense and allows you to dish out a lot of damage and take damage in return, being it on the special side. So after one Calm Mind, you have the potential to one-hit KO many Pokemon with, say, your Origin Pulse, because you may be taking damage when you set up one Calm Mind, so you may not want to opt for that Water Spout, so you may opt for maybe like Calm Mind, Origin Pulse, Thunder Slash, Ice Beam, and Protect. So you're going to be dishing out a lot of damage, and you potentially could pick up a lot of one-hit KOs. Disadvantages of using this. I don't know why that just showed up, but I do apologize. One disadvantage of using this is that it's not really reliable, because you don't have a reliable recovery option when you do run Calm Mind. You don't get Recover, you don't get Roost, obviously you're damn well, you're not a flying type. And you can't put leftovers on your Kyogre because you have to have the blue orb on it. So there's basically no way in order for you to recover unless, your opposing partner uses like Heal Pulse or something like that. And it's not something you generally want to use unless you're running like a Gothorita or a Gothitelle with Trick Room. It also wastes a turn. You're setting up the Calm Mind on that turn. There's a potential that you can get either knocked out on a physical aspect or just take a lot of damage and then potentially get taken out by like a Sucker Punch or another move the following turn. So you're wasting a turn to set up the Calm Mind. You have no ways of recovering after that. There's still no defensive bulk when it comes to setting up Calm Minds and Kyogre, which is something that you're gonna have to consider. You're not a Groudon, so you don't have that defensive bulk that you can invest in and then set up a Calm Mind to compensate for that lack in special bulk. You are not physically bulky, so you're going to have to really watch out for that when you're up against Groudons and Kangaskhans. Support is always required for this set in order to actually set up one, and in order to not take a lot of damage, so you're gonna have to have like a fake out user in order to help you. And if it's not used, it's wasting a move slot. So say if you go to a tournament, you're not really using Calm Mind too much, and you're just using Origin Pulse and Ice Beam most of the time, you're wasting that one slot, and you could have just filled it up with, say, like Water Spout. Anyway, Calm Mind Kyogre. So I'm not going to invest a lot in special attack, obviously, considering the fact that I don't need to, because I'm going to be compensating for that special attack with my Calm Mind. So a +1 special attack Kyogre with 76 EVs and special attack will one-hit KO a Kangaskhan with Origin Pulse in the rain all the time. And, even if there was some type of bulk in that Kangaskhan, it still would take it out. And then the Ice Beam will just decimate a Among Us that has basically no bulk in the special side, which they usually will, but that's something you want to consider right there. And Water Spout is also something that you want to consider when you're running a Calm Mind set, and it's going to take out the Xerneas all the time if it doesn't set up a Geomancy. And you'll still take out a Rayquaza with an Ice Beam, even if Delta Stream is up after a +1, and after a +1 Thunder, you will have a 50% chance of taking out a Kyogre without any special defense investment, and that just basically shows you the merit of how specially bulky Kyogre is. Alright, next we're going to get into my favorite Kyogre set, and that is the Trick Room Kyogre set. Now, the advantages of running a Trick Room Kyogre is that it outspeeds majority of the metagame under the Trick Room, barring those Ferrothorns and those Among Uses, and there's plenty of other Pokemon that can outspeed it under the Trick Room, but generally you're going to be watching out for those Among Uses and those Ferrothorns that are running around in high popularity, such as early in the metagame. Now, you can invest in a lot of bulk to survive hits outside of the Trick Room. That's one of the reasons why I like this Kyogre set so much, and it synergizes so well with an after-use supporter. such as Seismitoad and Lopunny. Seismitoad gets access to Swift Swim, so inside the rain, his speed is doubled, so you could pretty much outspeed everything, use After You, and get off the Water Spout inside the rain. And Lopunny basically outspeeds everything inside the entire metagame. If you're running a Jolly Nature, you can get up a Fake Out the first turn, and then you can After You after that with your Kyogre. Now you can run Min Speed Kyogre and still take advantage of these very fast After You users, so that you can also synergize very well with Crystal, Gothitelle, and Gothorita. Now I say that because when your After You supporter goes down, such as Lopunny, considering the fact that it's so frail, you can switch into your Trick Room user, set up a Trick Room. Now you can take advantage of the Trick Room. So there's two options where you can actually control speed right there. And if you're not running a Min Speed, maybe you're running like a very, very slow, quiet nature, but not zero IVs, you could still take advantage of Tailwinds at that point. So there's many options in order for speed control to use for Trick Room Kyogres. And you're guaranteed to get up the weather last when you switch in. Say like, okay, your opponent leads with Groudon, and it has a smidgen of speed investment in it, and you're Min Speed Kyogre. You're going to get up the weather last, in which means you're going to have the weather on the field. You're going to have your weather on the field opposed to their weather on the field. So that is another huge consideration. Now, the disadvantages of running a Trick Room Kyogre, it can possibly speed tie with Min Speed base 90 Pokemon, such as those other Groudons that are running, say, like a Quiet Nature as well as a Brave Nature with 0 speed IVs. It is incredibly weak to Ferrothorn and Amoonguss under the Trick Room. So when you go into Team Preview, that is something you definitely have to consider and build around. Say you want to have like a Fire type user on your team in order to get rid of those Amoongusses and those Ferrothorns, because they could basically almost one-shot your Kyogre under the Trick Room with a Power Whip and a Grass Knot. So definitely something you have to consider, especially with the Amoonguss getting off a lot of spores. He could definitely take advantage of your Trick Room, and it can easily be outsped by both opposing Pokemon and KO'd outside of the Trick Room. Alright, so these are the stats that I am running. This is actually Shin's set that he'd used at the 4th Glory qualifier in Japan on December 20th, and it's my favorite set thus far, and I've had a lot of success with this. So you have 252 in HP, you have 180 in defense, so you can survive a lot of hits now, considering the fact that, you know, you don't have a lot of defense investment in Kyogre, and you only need 76 special attack in Kyogre in order to just basically take out a lot of threats, because, I mean, just look at your special attack stat. It's still incredibly high, even though you only have 76 invested in it. Alright, so the dishing out the damage at a 76 EVs in special attack with a special attack benefiting nature, Water Spouts will always KO Mega Kangaskhan anyway. If they have no bulk investment, if they have 252 in attack and speed, which they generally do now, you can always take it out with a Water Spout. Also, a Water Spout will have a 50% chance of taking out a Xerneas as well, and you always will take out a Salamence, obviously with an Ice Beam, without any type of buffs in your attack. And there are definitely many hits that you can take now, and that's something I really want to touch on, because this is something that you're going to want to consider when you're building a bulky Kyogre, because you're going to want to survive those hits, so you could dish out damage in return and possibly win games that way, as well as dishing out a lot of damage and taking the damage under the Trick Room. So a 252 attack Life Orb Mega Rayquaza Dragon Ascent will always be a guaranteed 2-hit KO on a 180 defense Kyogre, as well as a Life Orbed 252 Adamant Talonflame Brave Bird will always be a 2-hit KO as well. A 252 attack Jolly Zekrom's Fusion Bolt will be a guaranteed 2-hit KO on a 180 defense Kyogre. Now, that's, say, like, okay, if it's a Jolly set, or maybe it's like a Talon support set, Jolly, Zekrom, but if it is Adamant at that point, say, like it's Choice Scarf, it will then be a 1-hit KO. That's something you're gonna have to watch out for anyway, so you know, that's your fault to get KO'd by Zekrom. And a 252, I just put 252 just to make an example of it. 252, you're generally not going to see them. I'm sorry. Okay, 252 attack Ferrothorn Power Whip versus the 252 HP, 180 defense Primal Kyogre. Always a guaranteed 2-hit KO right there. So definitely something you're going to consider when you're building for a bulky Kyogre, because that's something you're going to want to survive under the Trick Room as well as outside of the Trick Room. So, Kyogre's biggest threats. What do you need to assess on the other team in order to compensate for those threats and try to build around? One of them is definitely Mega Kangaskhan. Mega Kangaskhan threatens the entire metagame still. It did in 2014, it did in 2015, it still will in 2016, so it's definitely something you're going to want to build for. And the next one, obviously, is the other primal counterpart, Groudon. Groudon has the ability to get up Desolate Land over your Primordial Sea, so when that happens, you're really threatened because you really can't get those Origin Pulses off, you can't get those Water Spouts off, unless you're running like an Airlock Pokemon or a Cloud9 Pokemon, and it may force switch outs. So definitely another considerable threat right there. Thundurus. Now, I say Thundurus not so much because of the Thunderbolts. Thunderbolts aren't the problem when it comes to Thunduruses. The Swaggers are. Swaggering your Kyogre, because you still have a very high attack stat. So when Swaggers go down on Kyogres, it doesn't increase the special attack stat, so you don't have to worry about that when you're running a Thundurus. It increases your attack stat. You have a high attack stat to begin with, so it's going to do a lot of damage to your Kyogre, as well as disrupting it. And then the following turn, that Thundurus can still get off a Thunderbolt into your Kyogre and potentially KO it. Thunduruses are very disruptive. Prankster Pokemon are very disruptive. Definitely something you have to watch out for and consider in this metagame. Amoonguss is a huge threat. Amoonguss gets access to Grass Knot. You're not going to be seeing Giga Drains on Amoongusses. You're probably going to be seeing Sludge Bombs and Grass Knots on Amoongusses, considering the fact that it gets off a lot of damage onto the Kyogres and Groudons. So, something you want to consider, because Amoonguss will definitely outspeed you under the Trick Room. So it's something you're going to have to consider when you're in team preview, as well as Ferrothorns. Ferrothorns can potentially one-hit KO your timid Kyogres, and it can two-hit KO your bulky Kyogres, barring a miss from the Power Whip. And then you have Mega Rayquaza. Mega Rayquaza isn't too much of a threat, but when it gets up Delta Stream, it reduces the attack from water-type attacks, and, you know, he also resists it because he's a dragon anyway. And Ice Beams won't be doing too much to it in the Delta Stream, obviously, because Ice Beams are also weakened against Flying-type Pokemon. Another one that you're going to have to consider is Crobat. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself, why Crobat? Well, Crobat paired with, say, like a Fake Out user puts on a lot of pressure, because Crobat has either the option to Super Fang your Kyogre or set up the Talon anticipating a Protect from your Kyogre. Now you're going to be outsped by both the opposing Pokemon the next turn, and then Crobat could still get up a Super Fang the next turn. Crobat is incredibly threatening because you cannot take it out with an Origin Pulse depending on your investment in special attack, and you can with Water Spout, but then you always have that chance of the Crobat outspeeding you, getting a Super Fang down on you. Now you can't KO it with a Water Spout. Crobat is very, very disruptive and annoying in this metagame, so it's definitely something you have to consider. Alright, so what are Kyogre's best partners in order to compensate for those threats and those weaknesses? Those partners that benefit Kyogre the best when you're pairing it with Kyogre. Number one is Seismitoad. Now, all of these can be used as a number one pick, but Seismitoad is that niche Pokemon that you can use. It'll throw off your opponents a lot because it's something they're not going to expect. Usually you're not going to know exactly what Seismitoad does. A lot of people don't even know that he gets after you. I've caught a lot of opponents off guard while using him, and Jamie Boyd had actually won a tournament with Seismitoad on Showdown, Seismitoad and Kyogre. So you can run Min Speed Kyogre and then get an after you off with a Seismitoad. One thing you're going to have to watch out for is a Fake Out into the Seismitoad, and also Groudons can, you know, do a lot of work to Seismitoad, but the Seismitoad in return can also get off a lot of damage into the Kyogre, and if you're running a Life Orb Seismitoad, you can one-hit KO a non-invested Groudon with an Earth Power. So Seismitoad is actually really considerable here. It's just the fact that he is 4 times weak to Grass, so he's still weak to those same types that Kyogre are weak to, so definitely something you're going to have to watch out for. Now, another good partner, and a partner that I've been using to a lot of success in this metagame thus far, is Lopunny. Lopunny can single-handedly take out Kangaskhan's with a Fake Out and then follow up with a Low Kick. He can get off a lot of damage off with Low Kicks into Kyogres and the Groudons. It could be very disruptive with its encores. It also gets access to After You, which basically outspeed everything in the entire metagame. You can After You Water Spout. You can Fake Out Water Spout. And it also gets Encore. You can Encore these Pokemon into Protect, which is also really good. You can Encore them into Fake Out, which is really good. I really like Lopunny, and it also gets access to Teeter Dance, and it can be very disruptive as well. Alright, we also have Tornadus. Now, Tornadus over Thundurus, you can also run Thundurus with the roleplay, but Tornadus also is very good because it gets access to Tailwind, whereas Thundurus does not. So you can get up a Prankster Tailwind, you can also roleplay your Kyogre and your Groudons. More so that your Kyogre right now, because we're doing a analysis for Kyogre. And it also gets Taunt. It can be very disruptive. It's a very good Pokemon now in this metagame, and you can also run a Focus Sash on it so it can at least survive 2 hits, as well as get up a last-ditch effort Tailwind for your Kyogre. Also, another easy partner would be Kangaskhan. Dishes out a lot of damage. It gets priority Fake Out as well as Stab Fake Out. It could let you either set up with a Calm Mind or just get off a Water Spout. It's very, very good, and it can take out a lot of threats, especially if it is Jolly. Togekiss is another really good one. Togekiss gets access to Follow Me and Tailwind. You could possibly get up a Tailwind the first turn, protect Kyogre. You can also Follow Me if the opponent only has single targeted attacks. You could Follow Me Togekiss, and then you can get Water Spouts off with your Kyogre. Togekiss is really, really prevalent in this metagame. Cresselia, you can always have Cresselia in the back. Like I had said earlier, you can have a After You Pokemon in the front. Once they go down, such as the Lopunny, you can switch into your Cresselia in the back, maybe run like a Mental Orb on it, so that you can't get taunted. You're just going to have to watch out for swaggers, and as such as potentially getting taken out by an Eruption, and then another single down targeted. But it is a very solid option. It is the strongest option in order to set up the late game Trick Room in order to pick up many wins, in which I had actually done. Another really good Trick Room setter and trapper would be Gothitelle. Now, Gothitelle isn't as good as Cresselia. Obviously, it doesn't have access to Levitate in order to basically avoid those Precipice Blades and the Earth Powers from the Groudons. But it does get Shadow Tag, so you can trap into your opponent. Say if you lead with your Kyogre and your Gothitelle, and the opponent leads with its Groudon, you get up the Weather Last. The Groudon's basically rendered useless and is forced to either use Earth Power or Precipice Blades, and then you can set up the Trick Room, and then you could possibly go for like a Heal Pulse onto your Kyogre. There's many different options that you can use for Gothitelle. It is not that bulky though. And another Pokemon that you can actually consider right here is Gothorita. Now, Gothorita obviously is the pre-evolution to Gothitelle, but you can also stick a Life Orb, not a Life Orb, an Eviolite on Gothorita. It actually becomes bulkier than Gothitelle, but it also doesn't have that option of recovery, be it like Chesto Berry with a Rest, or Leftovers or Citrus Berry. So, say if you're running like a Togekiss as well as a Gothitelle, and Togekiss has a Citrus Berry, you're going to want to run Gothorita if you do want that trapping ability. Alright, so, Kyogre team building. How can you build a team right here? I'm going to give you an example of a team that I had built and what I had done in order to build that team, and what I basically surrounded myself in order to check other opponents' threats. Obviously, you're going to have Primal Kyogre on there, and this is the Trick Room Kyogre team that we were previously talking about. As 252 in HP, 76 in special attack, and 180 in defense. So this is a very slow, bulky Kyogre. I paired it with Lopunny. Again, like I said, Lopunny can single-handedly take out Kangaskhan. So I typically lead Lopunny Kyogre so that I could fake out a Kangaskhan on the other team, or another setup Pokemon on the other team, and then After You the following turn, or I can Encore the following turn. There's plenty of things that you could do with Lopunny. It's very versatile, and you basically just want to lead with Lopunny all the time. And the fact that Lopunny goes down so easily is actually pretty benefiting to you, so that you can put in your Cresselia and then get like a late game Trick Room sweep. Unless the other opponent has like a Taunter on your team and you're running Citrus Berry and Cresselia, such as I do. And then another Pokemon that you're going to really have to watch out for, again, is that the Crobat. Crobat has the option for the Super Fang, and you cannot you can't flinch the Crobat, which is huge. Ferrothorn. Ferrothorn takes advantage of the rain. Ferrothorn also takes care of many other Kyogres, as well as Xerneases, especially after the Xerneas gets up a Geomancy. You can one-shot KO. You can one-hit KO the Xerneas with a Gyro Ball, and it can be rarely disruptive as well with the Leech Seeds, and it can handle Groudon pretty well if you invest in it well enough. Inside the range, so definitely something you're going to have to consider, as well as a Cresselia right there. It is immune to those Earth Powers and Precipice Blades outside of a Gravity. You can set up late game Trick Rooms right there. It's really, really bulky. It is a good Pokemon to consider. You can run a Mental Herb, or you can run a Citrus Berry on it. I tend to run the Citrus Berry on it, considering the fact that I don't have Moonlight on it. Moonlight is something you're not going to really run on a rain team, considering the fact that you're not going to be recovering too much. Maybe Moonlight is something you want to consider on a Groudon team, because the sun will be up and you'll be able to recover 75% of your health. I run Xerneas on my team. Now, Xerneas is something I can actually switch around on. Xerneases are just very strong legendaries to have on your team. You can set up a Geomancy with that Power Herb and, you know, basically sweep through. You can also lead like Xerneas, and then you can have Lopunny. Get the Fake Out on the Pokemon that you can... get the Fake Out on the Pokemon that you believe that will damage Xerneas, and it's one Pokemon that basically leaves you for attacking so that you can actually set up a Geomancy. You're just going to have to watch out for those taunts from, like, say, Gengars, and taking a lot of damage from the Gengars, because Lopunny, well, actually, Lopunny can Scrappy Fake Out the Gengar, so it's something you want to consider, and that's why I like Lopunny so much, because it does get access to Stab Fake Out as well as Scrappy, so you can Fake Out those ghosts, such as Gengars. And that Pokemon that I was just talking about, Gengar, is a Pokemon that I have on my team. For those checks to Xerneas, I like to have 2 checks to Xerneas on my team, considering the fact that it's so popular. I can get very fast Will-O-Wisps. I can get very fast taunts with my Gengar. It's just that this team is a bit weak to Crobat, because Crobat can get off Super Fangs. You can't Will-O-Wisp a Super Fang. Crobat is very fast. It's faster than Gengar, so you can't really taunt it, and it actually can taunt your Gengar in return. It's just the fact that he is such a good check to Kangaskhan's as well as Xerneas, so I really like running Gengar on my team. So this is pretty much just like a little team that I put together for you, something that you consider when you're running rain teams, and you can also switch out many Pokemon. It's all experimental at this point. Anyway, thank you for watching this analysis of Kyogre. If you like this, please leave a comment down in the description below if you want to see more analysis. I'm probably only going to be doing a few Pokemon in this format, considering the fact that I don't have as much time as I normally do. I put this together probably in like 4 to 5 hours, and I really like Kyogre, so I wanted to put this out there. Anyway, thanks for watching, and set up that rain and sweep on through. Peace!